Welcome back, my young Jedis, back to prove once again that the dark does indeed matter. Life is forged in the primordial womb, the dark. The infinite creator rests in the dark. The kingdom is within you, and it rests in the... You get the idea. It is the flicker of light, the light bearer that creates the illusion and the purposeful blanket of deceit that has been programmed into your mind. And here at Dark Matters, we come to smash the mirror, pour cement into the rabbit hole, to go within, to dismantle the fictional narratives that warp our minds. And here with us today, back from Zuckerberg exile, we have none other than our good friend Neil Bentley. Whilst most of us run around chasing rainbows, Neil's digging deep in his dark, damp, moist man cave, finding the nuggets to free our minds, not just from Disney fictional bullshit timelines, but the answers to the quest itself, the quest to know thyself, the quest to remember who we truly are, and to become the coders and decoders of our own reality, the true reality that has been hidden from us for centuries. Neil, let's break this shit show down even further for those that have eyes to see. Welcome back.
Thanks for that, Carly.
Hi. How are you, Neil? For those that don't know, Neil's group on FacePub was dramatically taken down with all of Neil's research. I mean, obviously, Neil still has his research and hence the intro, and just poking a little bit of fun at the situation. So, Neil, obviously, life hasn't and research hasn't stopped for you. So today we thought we'd pop back on and do a little bit of a Dark Matters nugget. And I do believe you're going to kind of, obviously there's all this stuff going on with Israel and the fictional state of Israel. We've covered this stuff in previous episodes, but you want to kind of pop back on, and Neil's back with us. So we're going to do some more of these. And I think, Neil, you've been working on maybe like a 3, 4, 5, 6-day presentation that we will try and break down. But for now, we're going to kind of have a little Dark Matters nugget, aren't we? So do you want to kind of tell the audience what you're going to deep dive with us today?
Yeah, no problem. Well, initially I had my areas of research, and normally I'd come up with the conclusions, make up a little Facebook post, throw it out there, carry on with my research, no problem. 6 months ago, Facebook decided that they just didn't want me on there anymore. So I had 5 years worth of work, hundreds or thousands of posts deleted overnight. My profile was deleted overnight. Go away, don't come back. And it's not like there's a phone number you can ring and complain or anything. It's just go away, just don't ever come back. So we had a bit of a falling out with Facebook, but my research has always carried on and will always carry on. The problem is when I pull all these cherries up, is there anything worth throwing out? Is anyone else interested in it? Because, like I said, when we first started talking, I'm just a black sheep in the corner of my field, having nothing to do with anybody or anything. I don't know what anyone else is interested in. So the latest research, because it is so prevalent to everything that's going on today in the news and the media regarding Israel, I decided to have a look into the word Zion. Every day, 10 times a day, Zionist this, Zionist that, Zionism, Zion, coming from the Circus. So what is the word Zion? What is a Zionist? And what the hell has it got to do with Israel? And are the Zionists got anything to do with the Jews? But as we know from my work, Israel, Judaism, Christianity, everything comes from Britain. So has the word Zion got anything to do with Britain? That was the initial question that took me down this little rabbit hole of research. Now we've come up with all the answers, and is anyone else interested in this shit? I don't know. Well, I'll throw it out.
From one day to another, I am, Neil, and I'm sure pretty much of the Dark Matters crew are.
Well, we'll find out. I'll throw this one out. But the only thing that I would say is, because I don't have Facebook, because I have no access to any social media or anything anymore, I can't throw it out. So if you think there's anyone that might find any of this interesting, you're going to have to throw it out. You'll have to do the sharing for me. I'll do the research, you do the sharing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I say, I always say, don't I? Like when we put things, and we're working on that with BSV, etc., and you'll see some videos on the channel about BSV. As we know, when we put our creativity, our research, our dental records, whatever it may be on the corporate servers, FacePub being one of the biggest, they own it, so they can just take it down at any time. But you know, it's time to change that, isn't it? Because it's a cruel reality, and we're being silenced from hither to thither. But anyway, without further ado, again, the floor is yours. Let's see where this one takes us.
So let's get stuck into this one. How to right, the word Zion. All to do with the state of Israel, all to do with a certain belief system. So if we go into initially what the word Zion is in the Circus version of things, we start off Mount Zion, which is in the state of Israel. We also come across the Mount Temple. We come across the city of David. And apparently this strip of land now in the Middle East is called the State of Israel. And from your work, Carly, you'll also know that United Kingdom is a corporation, United States of America is a corporation, the Commonwealth of Australia is a corporation. All these corporations are registered in the City of London. Oh, we also have the State of Israel registered in the City of London. And you can find this. I was surprised with this one. I didn't need to go on Dun and Bradstreet. This is just on Companies House, on gov.com, Companies House, State of Israel, if you want some details on what Israel is and as a corporation. We also have Zion in The Matrix, one of the most famous
I got
Zions.
that one, actually, yeah. I was thinking about The Matrix. They call the city outside of The Matrix Zion, don't they? But there's a point in the film, isn't there, where Morpheus, I think, I don't know if he says it to Neo, don't quote me, but he says, is this real? Or did they give you another Matrix within a Matrix where you can be the freedom fighter within the Matrix, so you feel like you're kind of getting somewhere, but you're potentially not? And there is a scene, like I say, where Morpheus does that, and it is, yeah, quite right with Zion.
Basically, it was just a play on Zion. It's this mystical land that's the holy land, the chosen land, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. But there's that song in there as well, Neil. Iron, Lion, Zion, da, 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 da. Lion, the Lion of Judah. Is it
Bob Marley?
I
think it was Bob Marley that did that, was it?
I think it might have been Bob Marley. I don't know much of that kind of music, so I'm guessing it probably is.
Pretty sure 1970s reggae, into late reggae. Look it up. Right, so we have Zion from The Matrix. So what is Zionism? Because everyone says the word Zionist and Zionism, and they instantly relate it to Israel and they instantly relate it to the Jews. But then you'll see a lot of Jews holding placards up saying Zionism isn't Judaism. It's not. It just isn't. Zionism was initially created in 1666. There's a good year for you in your legal department. What happened in 1666?
The Great Fire of London and the introduction of the Sabbateanism.
You beat me to it. The Sabbateanism Act, yes. 1660. One of the most horrific acts that's ever been brought into law. Basically, it means you're all dead and the state owns you, unless you declared you're alive by the time you're 7 years old. Now, this is one of the most horrific laws that's ever been brought into existence. And just as a massive coincidence, unless you're a conspiracy theorist like me, on the day the Sabbateanism Act was brought into power, we had the Great Fire of London. Now, I'm not saying that the Great Fire of London was a false flag and it wasn't started deliberately to make everyone look in one direction while they signed in a law in the other direction, but these two horrific things happening on exactly the same day.
They never do stuff like that, would they? No one
Just,
could ever be so dark and evil as that, Neil. Come on.
just a bit of
We're just obviously mental.
just a bit of a coincidence. Right, so let's go back to 1666 and Zionism. Zionism, the redemption through sin. So Zionism initially goes back to 1666, and it was created by someone called Zabbatai Zevi. Now, he was a Jew who considered himself to be a Messiah. Now, he had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. So this isn't just some little side cliche. It's quite a big thing. So it was created in 1666 by Sabbatai Zevi. Now, Sabbateanism is what it's called, is exactly the opposite of what religion is. What Sabbateanism believes is that if everyone followed God's law, if everyone followed the laws of nature, everything would be hunky-dory here on earth and everything would be good and got on, and there'd be no death, killing, murder, rape or anything. But they also believe in the tribulation and the returning of Jesus and God making Jesus return and all the rest of it. So what Sabbateanism says is if they break every law of God and every law of nature and just become basically animals, thou must not kill, so they kill. Thou must not rape, so they rape. The more laws they can break, the quicker that they can bring about the tribulation, they can bring about hell on earth, and they can bring about the returning of the Jesus. That's the basis of Sabbateanism. Break as many laws as you can, and that's good because that's bringing back Jesus. So this is why when you look at Zionism now, this is what Zionism comes from, Sabbateanism, which was created in 1666, and it's basically to create hell on earth, which has nothing to do with the Jews. Completely different thing. In fact, they're opposite. I'd say Sabbateanism is anti-religion, completely against religion. Anyway, 1666, Sabbateanism. And that's why it's called redemption through sin. The more sin you do, then God will come down and forgive you for all your sins, and you're a good little boy. Is what their sick beliefs are. So Sabbateanism became Frankism round about 1750, because obviously there's certain people that disagreed with Sabbateanism. So it kind of goes underground and hidden, and no one knows what the beliefs are. So Sabbateanism became Frankism about 1750, and then Frankism became Zionism at the Katowice Conference in 1884.
They're a funny bunch of critters, aren't they? They look like people you could trust.
Yeah, actually, I was looking for the hidden hand on this one, and I can't find one. You always get these 18 pictures, and you're always looking for the Freemasonic hidden hand, and I think he's covering his belly up, but
nearly there. But
I was looking for the hidden hand, but there's none there. So basically, the Circus of Zion. What do we need to find in Britain relating to Zionism? What are the connections? Did this word Zion come from Britain? And has it got anything to do with breaking every law of God that ever existed? So we have the word Zion, Mount Zion in the Middle East. So we're looking for the word Zion. We're also looking for King David, the Shepherd King, who was the King of Jerusalem. We're looking for Mount Zion and the Mount of Olives, which is apparently out in Jerusalem. And we're looking for the Temple of Jerusalem, or Jerusalem itself. And we're looking for all of those in Britain and Ireland. So, let's start the research. Let's come out of the circus and come back to reality a little bit. So let's start with where we always start, the translation. Now, I don't know if I've explained all these words that I translate and keep coming up with and explaining how I do it. So when Saturn, for example, we know Sat is there, so what was turn? If we go into the translate and put turn in and translate it into Hebrew, Zion is Zion. If we then if we translate it directly to Hebrew, Zion is Zion. Now you see this little squiggle over on the left-hand side? That is ancient Hebrew or ancient Irish. So firstly we translate it to Hebrew, and then we translate it to ancient Hebrew or ancient Irish. So a direct translation of Zion in Hebrew is Zion. We take the word Zion and translate it into ancient Hebrew, and we get
Why the devil not? Are you asking me, Neil, or are you just telling me? Sorry,
yeah, I have no explanation for that one, but all I know is that all I know is if you translate
well, I wasn't expecting that.
if you translate Zion into ancient Hebrew, that's the word that comes. That's the word. That's the translation.
Just when you think like Clive could get any wackier, like, oh yes, it can.
Oh, yeah, it can. Right.
The child.
So let's go and have a look at the word Zion itself. Now, you know, when they keep saying that they chop the words up, they swap the PH for an F in Phoenician. They swap the QU for a K. So as we're going to go into in my Tuatha video, Quetzalcoatl begins with QU. That's been changed from K. It should be Quetzal, starting with a K, and Quetzal means cocoa. But we'll go into that in the my Tuatha video. So basically, the chopping and changing letterings and the making compounds of words to create other words and new words, just to basically the whole Babel thing, to confuse the languages so you don't know what they actually mean. Yeah. So they took the word Zion, and Zion comes from the word Sion. We swap the Z for an S. There is no Z. The letter Z is S. Sion. So what is Sion? Sion comes from the name Sionan. 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 Now, Queen Sionan was the granddaughter of King Manannán MacLear of the Isle of Man. She's his granddaughter. Now, just before we carry on with Zion, we need to just nip into King Manannán, just to explain the importance of who King Manannán is and the importance of his bloodline and why one of his granddaughters would have such an important name in history. So, Manannán MacLear is the king of the Isle of Man. His daughter is called Queen Niamh of Tir na nOg. Now, Tir na nOg is land of the eternal youth, this mystical island that rises out of the sea on the west coast of Ireland every 7 years, and everybody that lives on Tir na nOg is immortal. And if you want to do some research, look into Queen Niamh and Uasin and Tir na nOg. Great story. But again, slight sidetrack there. So Manannán is the father of Queen Niamh, who's queen of Tir na nOg. Manannán also shows up in North America because he shows up with the tribe of Mandan, one of the original peoples of America. When they were discovered, this tribe of Mandan spoke Gaelic, had lighter skin than everybody else, and talked about a tall, white-skinned, red-haired, blue-eyed European that came and gave them all advanced knowledge, and then called themselves the tribe of Mandan. Manannán also trained Lugh. Before Lugh went back to Ireland to become the king of the Tuathas, he was trained on the Isle of Man by King Manannán. When he left the Isle of Man, King Manannán gave Lugh a horse. And this horse was called Enbar, Enbar of the Flowing Mane. Now, this is a white horse, and it was a really, really fast horse, and it could run as fast across land as it could across water. It could literally walk on water. So I bring this up because of Enbar, the white horse. Manannán is a Danite. Manannán is one of the Tuathas. He's a Fenian. Now, one of the emblems for the tribe of Dan is the white horse. Now, this white horse keeps showing up everywhere. It shows up in all 4 books of the history of Ireland. It shows up in Scottish Celtic lore. It shows up in Welsh Gaelic lore. There are carvings of this white horse all over the country, carved into the hills. And I will postulate that this white horse that we see everywhere is actually Enbar, Enbar of the Flowing Mane. This magical white horse that could run across water that he gave to Lugh, and Lugh rode back to Ireland to become the king of the Tuathas. So that is basically who Manannán is. Quite an important dude in history. So his granddaughter is called Queen Sionon, Sionon, S-I-O-N-O-N. Now, Queen Sionon is actually famous for dying. she's best remembered for dying because Queen Sionon went fishing one day and she wanted to catch the salmon of knowledge. She went fishing in the river Shannon in Ireland. She caught the salmon of knowledge and then drowned. So Queen Sionon gets to be called Sion the Wise because it's the salmon of knowledge. So Sionon the Wise caught the salmon of knowledge, then fell into the river and drowned. So her name, Sionon, was given to the river Shannon. So the river Shannon gets its name from Sionon. So anybody, well, if you ever hear that anyone says, "Oh, the river Shannon comes from Zion," Zion is the river Shannon. Well, Zion is Sionon, and she gave her name to the river Shannon, and the river Shannon is called Shannon the Wise River, because Sionon the Wise drowned in the river. So, what are we up to? Right. So we have Zion, or Zionon, shows up in the Isle of Man. We have Zion, or Sionon, shows up in Ireland, in the River Shannon. But we need to get to Jerusalem. And as we already know, Jerusalem is Edinburgh, Scotland. So how do we go from Ireland, or how do we go from the Middle East to Ireland to Scotland, Edinburgh? Well, this is actually quite clever. When Sionon died, and when Ireland got taken over by Christianity, the thing is with the Christianity, they always got they've got to put the claws into everything. They take every story and just put their Christian beliefs onto the story. I mean, actually, before when I mentioned about Usin, when Usin returned from Land of the Eternal Youth, which was several centuries later, apparently he ran into Patrick. Patrick tied to Deivine, and he told him where to go. He wasn't interested. I'm more interested. I'd rather live in hell with the Fenians than be deified into Christianity. That was Usin's reply to St. Patrick. So anyway, deification into Christianity. The character Queen Sionon got deified by Christianity into Saint Eden. Sorry, this one's just an explanation of Sionon falling into the river, the Wise River, etc., etc. I'll just leave it there for a second for you to read while I explain. Christianity took over Ireland. Christianity took the character of Zionon, and deified her into Saint Eden. This is where it gets clever, because Sionin was a Danite, because Mannanan was a Danite. Sionin got deified into Eden. Then we come across the smoking gun, because we find another name for the word Edinburgh is Dan Eden. Dan Eden is where we get another name for Edinburgh. So Dun is Dan, Eden is Saint Eden, Eden is also Zionin, Zionin is Zion, so Edinburgh is also Zion. This bit you'll know how to hold. This bit you better be sat down for this bit. Right. So Edinburgh is Eden. Eden is Zion. Zionin, and Zionin is Zion. So Edinburgh is Zion. Nothing to do with the Middle East.
Funny that.
We also know that Zion is Jerusalem, is Edinburgh, from Commons Beaumont's work. We also know that Israel, Jacob, is a Fenian, is an Irish, a Fian. We also know that King David, the shepherd king, the character who killed Goliath, the David and Goliath story in the Bible, well, the Goliath was Balor of the evil eye, and David is Lu, and this is where Lu killed Balor in the Second Battle of Moytura. That got taken into the Bible as the David killing Goliath story. So King David is actually Lu. So the Star of David on the flag of Israel could actually be called the Star of Lu. Lu's star.
Yeah. And it's actually a hijacked symbol again, isn't it? Because like from Stephen's work, it's in the stars as well, that symbol. So they take these symbols and they invert them, like it's the same desert, different tent every time, isn't it?
Well, there's two things there. Firstly, your inversion thing, everything's inverted back to Sabbateanism. This is where the root of the inversion, everything being inverted, comes from. You breaking every law that there is by inverting it. This is where Crowley and all the rest of them, where they've got to turn around and flip everything and invert everything. That's what Sabbateanism is to invert the law of God.
And hence the transgender agenda that I've covered on the channel as well. That's why they want women as men, men as women, everything upside down.
Yeah, that is precisely what Sabbateanism is inverting absolutely everything. And this law of inversion comes from Sabbateanism, which is basically Zionism. So that is where it all comes from, and that's why everything that you see played out today, if you just say it's that bad, but in Sabbateanism or Zionism, that's good.
Yeah.
So just to take this full circle, so we have Edinburgh as Jerusalem. Edinburgh is Zion. Now I'm going to take it one step further. If that's not far enough, we're going to take it one step further. So, Edinburgh, sorry, one too many. Edinburgh, when everyone looks at the word Edinburgh, they see the word Eden, borough, the borough of Eden. Now, we've already shown that the Eden bit comes from Eden, Saint Eden. It's not Eden, the Garden of Eden, or is it? So let's stretch this. Eden, borough. Eden comes from Queen Zionin. Queen Zionin comes from the Isle of Man. So she's Queen Zionin of the Isle of Man, who is also deified as Eden of the Isle of Man. So Eden of the Isle of Man, well, that's quite interesting, because then you're still sticking with this Garden of Eden, the Isle of Man. Do you know another name for the Isle of Man? The Isle of Apples.
The Isle of
Apples. The Isle of Apples.
Hull.
Apples.
Battles.
Apples.
Hull.
A
Hull.
apple. Apple.
Oh, apples. Sorry, it wasn't coming over that one. It took me. Oh, right, the Isle of Apples.
The Isle of Man is called the Isle of Apples, and Queen Eden ruled over the Isle of Apples.
Right, hence the apple in the Garden of Eden.
So I would postulate
Just people watching, putting that together.
that Edinburgh is Zion, and the Isle of Man, ruled over by Queen Eden, the Isle of Apples, is Edinburgh, is the Isle of Man, the Garden of Eden. And just to add a little bit on top of that, the Isle of Man is also called Avalon.
The Isle of Avalon.
The Isle of Avalon. That's another name for the Isle of Man. So the Isle of Avalon, the Garden of Eden, is the Isle of Man, from Saint Eden, who comes from Zion, who is Edinburgh.
Wouldn't it be lovely just to go back to like those days, really? I mean, look how beautiful that is. Like, I hanker for those days. Like, can we get back to that, when we knew where the portals were in and out of this place? And the salt water had been blocked up, and the Earth's grid was, we knew this stuff back then, but I believe it's coming back.
Well, again, if we just go back into this.
Okay.
There you go. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Thank you.
Well, again, I mean, this started for me about 12 months ago. The problem with Asperger's syndrome, it's pattern recognition. You see things that don't really fit, but you don't forget about them. They're just kind of there, and then you'll see another one, then you'll see another one, and then you'll see another one, and all of a sudden. So about 12 months ago, I saw a story in the Daily Mail completely disrespecting Israel. I thought, that's strange. BBC should be, Daily Mail should be all over it, idolising Israel. Then about a month later, I saw a story on the BBC completely disrespecting Israel. And then it's like, oh, well, that's weird. That's two stories I've seen in the last month completely disrespecting Israel. And you don't really take notice of it, but you see it. And then as the months went by, you see another story and you see another story, leading through to today. And it's been, for the last 12 months, it's been like someone's been pushing a bandwagon of anti-Israel stories. And I'm seeing stories now by content producers who would never produce this kind of work. I'm seeing stories on the BBC. I mean, even bloody Stasi Starmer turned around the other day and said he was going to recognise Palestine. And Macron's doing it, and Canada's doing it. All of a sudden, all these psychopaths are all of a sudden trying to avoid a noose at Nuremberg for genocide, and all of a sudden coming out in favour of Palestine. Well, this is where this is going to end up, because I'm saying that if you actually look at Israel today, forget what you see on the BBC or the Daily Mail or whatever. The IDF in Israel is being handed its arse on a plate by Hamas. The country, the state of Israel, got absolutely smashed by Iran. What was it, about 6 weeks ago? Everything got smashed. The complete infrastructure of Israel got completely taken out. They've only got 2 ports and 1 airport. The Houthis have shut down, have bankrupted their only Red Sea ports. So Israel now has no access to the Red Sea or the Southern Hemisphere. The Houthis also keep closing down the airport in the state of Israel. The population are leaving in their droves. You look at the economy, and the economy is toast. It's absolutely on its arse. I would say that Israel doesn't have more than 12 months to exist. It'll be gone within the next 12 months. But I also believe that this is being done deliberately. And it started a couple of years ago because this bandwagon is being pushed and pushed and pushed. Now, 3/4 of the world's population is all looking at Israel, calling them out for this genocide of the Palestinians. But I think that is all being done deliberately. I also think the destruction of Europe and the destruction of North America are all going to go hand in hand with the destruction of Israel. But this then comes back to, I keep going on about this Twitter video I need to make. Well, this thing's going to be about 4 hours long. It's covering 10,000 years and the entire planet. So you'll have to excuse me if it's taking me a little bit longer to get together than throwing one of these together. But
Neil, for people, because if I'm absolutely honest, I'm usually with my head in such a cult holes, shall we say, but I suppose I don't pay as much attention to what is, the detail of what's going on. I mean, I'm a bit of an overview girl anyway, really. I mean, the devil is in the detail, as we know. So why do you think that is? I mean, obviously, they want to go through, they want to, because obviously the state of Israel, the state without Israel, we know that's like, obviously, don't look here at the true Holy Land, look there, and all this conflict over there has been about that distraction to think, just basically like, oh, they're always fighting over the Holy Land is here, when really, actually, it's over here. So why do you think they're playing that card now?
Okay, well, you're going to skip you're actually skipping forward 2 videos here, because I need to do one. I need to do one on the Tuathas, the Anunnaki, the fallen angels, or whatever. It's all right. So that's going to be the big 4-hour one.
Yeah. Well, this is a taster then, isn't it? Because, that I find it, well, obviously I find it fascinating, else I wouldn't be here, but it's like, say, it's getting down to that nitty gritty of what actually is.
Well, actually, I need to, then you ask, why is this all happening? That's going to be for the video after, because before I make the Tuatha video, unless I make the Tuatha video, people aren't going to understand who the Khazarians are. Now, just to nip into that, they're called the fake European Jews. They're called the Khazars. Now, we know the Tuathas always like to call themselves Tsars, Tsar, Caesar, Khazar. It all means king. They call themselves the king. They call themselves the kings. Then we get into Khan, Genghis Khan. Well, Genghis Khan just happened to have white skin, blonde hair, blue eyes, and Khan is Cain of the Tuathas. Yes. So when you see these words Khan, KH, Cain, Khazar, Hazar, it's all to do with the Tuathas. But again, that will be gone into detail in the big video, but the one after that is to explain who these Khazars are, who these fake European Jews are. Because they technically aren't fake European Jews. What actually happened was they lived in an area of Kazakhstan. Now, Kazakhstan is South Russia, North Turkey. So they were trapped. Now, history tells you they were pagans, but pagan is just British Orthodox Christianity. Now, north of the Khazars was Russia. Now, Russia practiced Orthodox Christianity. So the easiest way to understand it is the Khazars were pagan. Russia was also Orthodox Christianity, and Turkey was Islam. So these Khazars were trapped in the middle, and they were basically forced to choose between Christianity and Islam. Well, they chose neither. They chose Judaism, just to be a pain in the ass. Now, these Khazars are descendants of the Hazars. They are descendants of the Scythians from Skye. These horse-riding warriors, these psychopathic, maniac horse-riding warriors who won every battle they ever fought. So this is sort of the tie back to Ireland of them being these horse-riding warriors. So they chose to become Jews. This is why they get the term the fake European Jews, because they chose to be Jews. Although, as we know, all Jews come from Ireland and Britain, and they're actually the Druidic YEWS. So, again, because it's funny, because about 1000 AD, the Khazars, actually fought a battle with the Mongols. So you had Genghis Khan, who's a Tuatha, fighting the Khazars, who are Tuathas. This is what I keep saying. They've forgotten about who they are. They've forgotten their own history. They've broken off into all these groups, and they don't know that they're actually all connected. Anyway, so what happened? You ask why Israel, why now? So the Khazars who lived in Kazakhstan basically got forced to move south during the Soviet Union while it was the USSR because they didn't like this dictatorship. They didn't like communism. They didn't like being butt under the jackboot of Stalin. So they moved out of Kazakhstan and they moved down to Israel. So this is why these Jews in Israel, these Khazar Jews, are called the fake European Jews. Now, they make up about 20% of the population of the state of Israel. So it's a massive population. This is why during the recent events with Israel and Iran, Putin was telling Iran to stop bombing Israel because of all these Russian Khazar Jews that were living in Israel. Russia was on both sides of the fence. It has to support its own people who were living in Israel, but it also, because of BRICS, also supported Iran. So Russia got involved, and it was actually Russia that stopped that. It wasn't Putin. It wasn't Trump. It was Putin that stopped that particular battle. Only Trump needs to go around and keeps taking prize for stopping these wars, and he doesn't even stop them. I mean, last week he made a claim that he talked to Putin and he was going to bomb. He told Putin that he was going to bomb Moscow. The conversation never took place. He never talked to Putin. Trump's going, I told Putin that I would bomb Moscow. And Putin's going, phone call never took place. It took place in his head, but that's the only place it ever took place. Anyway, so back to these Khazars and them going down to Israel. Now, the Soviet Union, the USSR, fell in 1989, 1990. That was the end of the Cold War. And that was the collapse of the USSR. So that only left Russia as a country by itself. Now, Russia as a country is enormous, but it wasn't the Soviet bloc. It wasn't the USSR. It was just Russia. So this was about 89, 90. So if you look at the capital of Kazakhstan, the capital of Kazakhstan is called Astana, which is a really good anagram of Satan or Setanta. Then if you go and do some research on Astana, it looks like New World Order Central. It looks like the Freemasons have built it. There's all seeing eyes, there's pyramids, there's twin columns, there's you name it. Every cliche that you can think of covering the Masons or the Illuminati is in the center. It's in the middle of Astana. Now, Astana suddenly popped up from nowhere about 98, 99, somewhere around in the late 90s. So this was after the fall of the Soviet Union. So you say, why now? Now, for the last 80 years since the Second World War, and for the last 200 or 300 years, Europe and America have basically created hell on earth. They've just been going around murder, raping, pillaging, threatening every country across the planet. If you don't jump to what we say, we're going to invade you, we're going to destroy your economy, we're going to put a leader in there that is going to jump to our tune, blah, blah, blah. They've been the world's bullies. Now we get to the postulation. I would postulate that these Russian Khazar Jews who lived in Israel are sick to the back teeth of Western bullying, threatening Russia, threatening everybody on the planet. I would say that then for at least the last 30 or 40 years, they've been working to bring down Israel, America, and Europe. Crash them completely, send them back to the Stone Age. Then what will happen is these Khazar fake European Jews move back home again to Kazakhstan. Now, Kazakhstan is, I think it was the 6th richest country on the planet because of all the mineral wealth that it sat on. It's like Venezuela. Small country, but stupidly rich and will be stupidly powerful. So if we take out America, Europe, and Israel, that leaves all the BRICS countries in the Southern Hemisphere. Now these appear to be a lot more mature, a lot more sensible. They have conversations, they make trade deals, they just want to get on and enjoy life and have a nice peaceful world, unlike everyone in the Northern Hemisphere. So if you took out the Northern Hemisphere and you just left all the BRICS countries, I mean, the BRICS countries at the moment have 55% of the world's population and control 60% of the world's GDP. So they're the dog right now, are the BRICS. If you look at all the immigrants, the tens of millions of immigrants that have been flooding into America for the last 5, 6, 7 years, or however long it's been, if you dig down to where the money is, who's making the money, which charities are controlling all these immigrants in North America, and every time you go back to Israel, it's Israel that are responsible for these migrants in North America. I would also postulate that Israel is also behind all the migrants in Europe. Every country in Europe is being flooded with migrants. I would also say that the Zionists are behind Ukraine, because every European country in North America are literally bankrupting themselves, pouring money into the Ukraine. And we all know it goes in through the front door and out through the back door. But we've been bankrupting ourselves, pouring all our money into the Ukraine. We've been pouring all our weaponry into the Ukraine. I would say that this is a project that is going to, within the next couple of years, is going to absolutely destroy every European country, North America, and Israel. It's going to destroy them all at once, and then moving forward in, let's call it, the New World Order, is going to be Russia, China, Iran, Kazakhstan, all the countries on the Southern Hemisphere that are behaving themselves, that don't kill each other and don't invade each other and don't rob each other's. That, I would say, that is going to be the world moving forward, and everyone on the Northern Hemisphere is going to be sent back to the Stone Age, literally.
Well, it does seem to be happening, that, and it's absolutely happening on our shores, because I know that's something we rally about in the realm of England with the law work that we do. You know, it's that kind of removal of us, you know,
Yeah.
and that's quite evident, you know, but that's obviously a much more detailed.
Well, so that's a postulation, but I can see that Israel is on its last legs. I know that Europe and America have been bankrupt for over 20 or 30 years now. So how do you get out of bankruptcy? You don't get out of bankruptcy by going and spending hundreds of billions and trillions of pounds on phony wars. So all you're doing is making yourself worse, putting yourself in a worse and worse and worse situation. Yeah. That has to be done deliberately.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we can see that it is, isn't it? You know, I think that kind of removal of the sovereign people of the land, as I say, the inhabitants of the land here, and just that complete mass migration, which is obviously being done very intentionally and very purposely, because, as we know, they've been caught bringing them in truckloads and flying them in and giving them MasterCards and putting them up in hotels, you know. And this isn't about race, this is about the destruction and annihilation of our culture. And like you say, that kind of Western civilization, really. And it's happening before our eyes. So what do we do? How do we get out of Dodge? I mean, obviously, we'll be going into more detail about this. I mean, this was just like a little bit of a snippet, wasn't it, Neil? Because I think it had been burning like a bee in your bonnet. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
This is coming from 2 or 3 videos down the road.
Yeah. But I suppose to finish on a fun note, actually, let's destroy the Trump tards, as I say, like, you know, controversial. But interestingly, obviously, we've talked a lot about the tribe of Dan with Neil, and we're going to be talking about them a whole lot more, so hold on to your hat. But obviously with Trump, I mean, can you just say what you told me on the phone the other day? I mean, I just find it so incredulous at this point that people still think the white hats are coming to save us. So I think this will just be a fun note to end on, but we will be back. But you were saying, obviously, about the splinter of the tribe of Dan and what the white hats actually means. And I think we can leave it there and let people have a good, long, hard look at themselves.
Well, the white hat, where they get the white hats from, it's the same places where you get the flag of Israel, which is red, white, and black. Sorry, not Israel, Egypt. Red, white, and black. So the black part comes from the land of Chem, which is higher Israel, sorry, I keep saying Israel, Higher Egypt, because the soil is black, because that's where the fertility is, and that's where the soil, and that's where they do all the planting. Then you get to Lower Israel, Egypt, where the Nile goes in, where you get to Lower Egypt, where the Nile goes into the Mediterranean, and the sand is red. So that's where you get the black and the red colours from. Now, the three houses that controlled Egypt, one was the Black House for Higher Egypt, one was the Red House for Lower Egypt, the other was the White House. The White House. And, oh yeah, and they wore white hats. Now, they were the priest classes of Egypt. Now, you say priest class, and everyone instantly thinks, oh, they were the good guys. No. You know, when we first started talking, and I was talking about Akhenaten, what happened at the end of the 18th dynasty, where Akhenaten read the original Hermetic teachings and realized that the priest classes had destroyed basically the teachings, who mixed and matched it all up, who created multi-gods, and they all did it for their own greed. Well, that's early Zionism. It's where this fall of man that was taking place, where initially they had the pure knowledge, then the priest classes came along, greed came along, materialism, narcissism. They basically destroyed the ancient beliefs so they could use it for themselves. So this is where the white hats come from. It was the priest classes of Egypt.
Who kind of, I suppose, in simple terms, sold out their brethren for power, money, narcissistic, kind of went to the dark side. That isn't the dark side, because the dark is the light and the light is the dark. And I think that's one of the biggest inversions cracking and going, really, isn't it? But there you go. So, but the white hats are coming to save us, Neil. Don't you forget. The arrests are coming any day now.
Yeah,
the white hats are coming, but not in the way that you think.
We're still training the swamp from 2016, aren't we?
This is it, it's draining the swamp. Yeah, and obviously, and we'll be digging into this a little bit more, obviously, hopefully with yourself, about the lineage of Trump. It doesn't take, I'm a good researcher. I don't think I do as much as you, Neil, especially not on these topics. But it's quite simple for anybody. For those that have eyes to see, it's quite simple, isn't it? But again, Neil, wow, thank you so much for coming and blowing the doors off that one for us. These are such nerdy topics, but to me, it's so key to the puzzle that we get these things to kind of decipher between what is real and what is not, in the film, in the script, in the film reel, So again, thanks again for joining us, Neil. But we will be coming back with the mega epic that Neil is currently trying to stick 10,000 years of history into a 4 or 5 hour presentation, but we will have it here at Dark Matters. So thanks again, Neil. He's working on it. He's in his dark, damp, moist man cave, and I nearly fluffed that intro so many times. I shouldn't try and be too clever, but they're always good fun. And it's always good fun to have you on, Neil. So and as ever, so very, very informative and so important at this time. A revelation indeed.
Again, like we were saying just before we started, I'm doing this research. I just wanted to know what Zionism is. Simple as that. So then when you do find out, it's a case of, right, well, I've been sat here for a couple of weeks just going, what do I do with it? Is anyone interested in this? I'm already dead.
Send him water. These people don't understand. You don't understand people what goes into this, but
right, so that's So that's an explanation. When you see the word Zionism, it's what Zionism is. Sabbateanism. Zionism is exactly the opposite of Judaism. They are not related in any way, shape, or form. And Edinburgh is Zion, and the Isle of Man is the Garden of Eden.
And you heard it here, maybe for the first time. I would think most of you certainly. You heard it here first. Neil, thanks again so much, and thanks everyone for watching. And remember, the dark does indeed matter. We shall see you next time. Ta-ta for now.
Cheers, Carla.